Welcome to my weekly review. Today is Saturday, October 4th. You're looking at a daily chart of the Dow Jones Industrial Average index. I don't really care that much about, but it did trade at an all-time high. So that's cocktail information for this weekend. You can go impress your friends that you know that the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed at 46,758, and on the weekly chart, you can see it was up 1.1% last week, or 511 points, and just, trending higher. Obviously, when indexes make new highs, it's super bullish. And usually when they make new highs, they continue to make subsequent highs. So, yeah, the Dow Jones over 46, close at 46,758, heading towards 50 grand, right? So I never show that index, so I thought I would just start off this weekly review with the Dow Jones. And the Nasdaq came in a little bit, just a teeny tiny little bit. If I zoom in here, it just pulled back to its five there on Friday, down 64 points, we'll call it 0.28%, close at 22,780. The volume on Friday was above the average daily volume, 17% above the average daily volume. If you want to take a look at the weekly chart here, you see the tariff tantrum here. We had this whoop tariff tantrum. Then since we got liberated, it's been what, 25 weeks now, I believe, maybe 26. Since the April was April 7th. Today's October 4th. Yeah. Okay. 6 months, about 26 weeks, I believe. I've got I did this a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it said 24 2 weeks ago, I think. So that would make it 26. Doesn't matter. This thing is melting up. It was up 296 points last week, or 1.32%, with 7% above the average weekly volume. Now you can see these big blue volume bars, which tells us that the institutions are supporting this market. Yeah. So that's what we like to see, but I would caution that, it seems like people are getting a little complacent here, expecting stuff to go up every day. And I wouldn't be surprised if it gave us a little shake here pretty soon. I'm not predicting anything. It's just, that's kind of what happens from time to time when we get complacent. When I start seeing people posting all their gains on Twitter, that's one of my top indicators. All right, I'm just going to get to stocks today. I'm not going to go through any of the Mag 7 or anything like that. I'm going to go to the top performing groups. Gold has been the top performing group by quite a bit here in 2025. AU has been one of the top performers in the group, and you can see this one's just melting up. These are not fast moving stocks. You can see how tight the daily ranges are, but they just grind higher. And pretty easy holds here. If you hold a gold stock, you can see that just week after week, month after month, they just kind of grind higher. I think gold's nearing what was it? I don't know. The gold's really expensive, like 3,900, something like that, almost 4,000. I think for gold. And copper was over $5 on Friday. So yeah, the commodities themselves are melting up, kind of like the Nasdaq. Nice to see the SSRM pulling back last week, 3%. So maybe it'd give us an opportunity. It looks like a pullback to its 4 week line, which might be 23.18, close at 23.35. Yeah, so that might be an opportunity there. There's your 21-day pullback to the 21-day, found support. So that one looks like a SSRM. If you're interested in getting into one, that's been a big winner. That has been the biggest winner. And that looks pretty darn good to me. Buy the pullbacks, buy the dips, when they bounce, and sell the rips. Last one I want to show here is GFI. Goldfields has been another big winner in the this space here. You can see, nice big base, and then it ran up, pulled back to its moving average, and it's just been trending the five the entire way, surfing like Kelly Slater. All right, I think that's it for the gold stocks, right? Yeah. I mean, I show them every day. People get tired of them. If you don't own one, I just bit the bullet and bought one, and that's okay. It's doing okay. OKLO. The energy group is the second top performing group. OKLO's up 500% in 2025. And if I just want to go to the comparison chart here of OKLO and LEU and Bloom Energy and I don't know, SRM, excuse me, what was the other one that I was looking for? GEV. Yeah, GEV. And I will do SRM. And these things are coming up light. I can barely see those. And then go to the last day of trading day of 2024, you can see Oklo's up 499.9%, 500% on the year. LEU, the laggard, it's only up 416%. And Bloom has rallied recently and it's up 306%. That's the one that I prefer right now. Oklo is just a little hot. I did buy Oklo in my retirement account earlier in the year and it's doing pretty well. I just looked at it yesterday. And yeah, it's doing pretty well. Pull back, ran up, broke out of a base, ran up, pulled back, didn't even make it back to the 21. And you can see the 5 was curling down. Now it's curling back up. I like it above, yeah, 130.94, the high on Friday. It's probably going to make a new high here. What was it, 144.49? Yeah, so you're looking at what, 145 for Oklo. Yeah, very strong name. I did mention Centris, LEU. Broke out of a base recently, and now it's just surfing its 5, finding support there consistently. Is what you like to see. And I did mention Bloom Energy. And this one's been on a heater since breaking out. I mean, what was this thing's gone from like 24, yeah, 24 to 90 in a pretty short period of time. Um, what was it, July? Yeah, July wasn't that long ago. No. And so in a couple months, this thing's been, I don't know, almost a four bagger. Not bad. So Bloom, very strong. And I wanted to mention Plug. I usually don't talk about $2, $3 stocks, but this one broke out of a base here recently and made a high of what, 360 and then pull back. And we've seen this a lot lately, this flag type of pattern, where it runs up, this is more than a two bagger, and then it pulls back to the moving average, forms this little flag type pattern, and then boom, 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 3 days in a row. It goes from, let me get my tracker here. Yeah, 240 up to almost $4. So another nice move here, probably form another flag. So that one is not to be ignored. It looks like it's trying to break out of a stage one base here. There you go. At $2.03. So a very successful breakout, up 60% last week. So those are ones you don't want to ignore when you see this big volume move here. Yeah, definitely pay attention and wait for the pullback like we just got right here. Nice little pullback from 316, John 316 to 219. So, wait for the pullback, don't chase when they're up. Wait for them to come in a little bit. That's what I do. I'm not telling you what to do. That's just what I do. I wait. All right, I'm going to move on to the minerals. Rare earth USAR. I guess the US government's getting involved with this one. Get some water. Hmm. It moved on Thursday. And then really, I think the news came out Thursday afternoon and then really ramped on Friday. You can see it's 20.5% above its 5 EMA. So that one's really extended, but probably going to get more extended, right? I mean, there's a lot of buyers here. It did go up to 28.25 and pull back. So the daily range was only 29% closing. So it closed in the bottom half of its daily range. It's still a nice move. I think we'll take 14% in a day anytime. A couple other names in this group that the government got involved with. This is MP Materials forming a nice base here. I'm probably going to put this one on my ready list next week because I think it's ready. Don't wait for that high in the handle there of what, 82. Heck no. I'd rather get it down here at this level. But that thing's forming a nice base. I like it a lot. UU. Energy Fuels is a uranium play, right? right here. You can see Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Wyoming broke out and just keeps running higher. This is one that you want to wait for since the breakout. It pulls back, finds support entire time. So wait for one of these dips before you dip your toe into it, that one. At least that's what I'm going to do. LAC, another one that the government's making overtures towards. And like I say, you don't want to ignore these big volume. Maybe you don't want to chase it here, right? On this day when it really ramped. I think that was the day the news came out. It's up 95%. It went up to $6.30. The subsequent day is 7.53. But then it came back, right? Wait for this day, right? 5.23 was the low. Get it for 5.5. And then whoops, buyers come back in as more news comes out. And it was up 32% on Friday. So yeah, nice chart here on the weekly. You can see the breakout here 2 weeks ago and then last week. 42% move. So 94 and 42, that will also look really good in your portfolio. Hmm. After the bell yesterday, the critical minerals, CRML, shown this one a few times here. I like the chart, but man, I guess the government's making overtures towards this one as well. Is up 70% after hours. So this will be one to watch on Monday morning. You know, you could just consider this a base like above $10. What was it, 13.58? So it's going to be, you're going to be chasing it on Monday. But yeah, this is a nice looking little base here, cup with handle, and it's going to break out on Monday. So yeah, 70%. I don't think I'll be buying a stock up 70%, but it'll probably work out longer term. Critical metals, yeah, the Trump administration is making overtures towards that one as well. All right, I'm going to get out of those groups and go to, something that I really am interested in, these Bitcoin plays that turned into data centers. These things are absolutely ripping. I did a stupid thing on Thursday. I think I bought, I thought I bought a certain amount, but I added an extra zero to it. And so when I looked at my portfolio on Friday, I said, man, there's something wrong here. This thing's really up a lot. And then I had to sell, like, I don't know, about 90% of what I had. I fat fingered a trade is what I did. And it worked out for me. But I've also gone the other way with earnings on Dave, and that one really screwed me. So I got to be a little more careful. Hey, those mistakes happen. This one was to my benefit, thank goodness. Let's take a look at a 5-minute chart. There it is. Friday after action starts off, gapped up a little bit, got up to what 48.88, sold off down to 46, and then man, it just spiked quickly up to 52. Came pulled back a little bit, back up to 52, man, then closed 50.46. But still, to me, this is finding support at the five. And as long as the five's rising and it's rising fast, it started the week at what? I think it was the 29th, right? Yeah, started the week. The five was 43.95, closed the week at 47.56. So yeah, the moving average is rising quickly, and as long as the stock stays above that, you're going to be in the chips. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to these comparison charts because since the last quarter, these things have really been performing well, and I think it's worth noting which ones are the leaders and which ones are the laggards here. And I wouldn't even call the laggards because they're up a lot. But this one's up 246%. CIFR is another one that I like. It's up 200%. Wolf made the deal with Google, and that one's up 172%. NBIS 131, and then CoreWeave's kind of the laggard in this group. It's down 17%, but it's an IPO and it's going through its due diligence phase, and I think it's going to hit its advanced phase and catch up with these ones here pretty soon. But there you can have it. This is the Q3 performance from these names. I mean, we're up 246% in a quarter. I think it's going higher. maybe I'm the one that's being complacent, thinking everything's going up, as I said at the top, but maybe it'll dip, pull back, and it'll be an opportunity to buy. But those ones are super strong. I just wanted to show that to you. Performance, I like performance. I don't want to sit there and wait around for a stock to go through its basing process. I'd rather, have these stocks that are trending because I'm a swing trader and not a position trader. That stuff is for my retirement portfolio. Couple others I wanted to show in this group. I did mention Wolf, and I did mention, these things are just surfing their five. NBIS been a big winner. Yeah, this one looks a little extended here, 6.5% above the five, but just it wants higher prices. This is what you call price discovery. These things are all in price discovery. How high will they go? Nobody knows. When she stops, nobody knows. But yeah, I think it's going higher until it doesn't, right? Another one that I need to mention in this group, BKKT backed holdings. This one won't back down. Haha, no pun intended. 2568 though was your trigger, and it just made this little base here. This is what I can't sit through right there. Oh boy, that drives me nuts. And had this little pullback, and then it bounced last week to the tune of, oh, I don't know, 125%. So this is a move not to be ignored, Dan. Yeah, I know the old high here, but it surpassed that one. And you got another one right here from Backed Holdings. What was it? 68.75. So it's got some work to do. 37.21. Yeah. It's a little extended on the daily, but on this weekly chart looks fantastic. And yeah, it's got work to do. It looks like it's just breaking out of this, what you'd call a stage one level base. So these ones are interesting to me. All these ones that I'm showing in this group, it was down 8% on Friday, but still up 125 for the week. And the last one is Hut. This one's been on fire too. This is the old Bitcoin miner. Like the other ones I showed, ran up to 39.47, pulled back at the 21 and found support. And that's what you want to see. When they start showing weakness, where do they find support? And this one, you see it find support here at the 21 and bounced, every day last week, it looks like. Yep, 21% last week. A nice week. 41.64 is the high. These are all looking, really good. But like I say, I don't want to be complacent. And if they do pull back, just find out where they're getting their support. All right, enough of that. I had a lot of stocks that looked good last week that I put on my watch list. Some of them crashed, but some of them did well. Shopify is one. You could see this cup with handle, a nice shakeout down to the 50. What is that, 4 days of shaking out? Yeah, that's pretty sharp. From 159.01 down to 139.50 as it pulled back to the 50, found support, bounced this next day, which was Monday the 29th, 6%. So that was your cue. I did not put it on my ready list, but I should have. I put some other ones on that didn't do quite so well. But I think I was like 6-2 last week, so that's pretty good trading, batting average. Shopify was up, yeah, 15% last week, just breaking out of this base. And you could see they form a base, they run up, they form a base, and now it looks like it's breaking out and wants to run up again. But like I said, I don't want to get complacent, and I just take it day by day. Trade what I see. All right, I mentioned some duds. Palantir was one, had some news on Friday. I mean, it was looking good for the week. Had some news down 7.5% on Friday. I think the management came out right away and debunked the news, but the damage was done. It was late in the session. And you could see right here, yeah, whoop de doo. Oh man, we're going south, folks. After hours, it bounced back a little bit. I think it'll get right back up to that 180 level Monday or Tuesday of next week because, yeah, I mean, you're going to get that from time to time. You get these, hit pieces or stories that come out that, are not they're falsehoods. How can I say people? How could I be nice? Well, if I can't be nice, I won't say it. Roblox is the other one. Uh, sold off. There was some dude that came out with a report that said their growth is slowing. It's kind of unsubstantiated. It's just one guy writing an article, and knocked Roblox down. There was some insider selling, Kathy Wood sold, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think the story that the guy wrote is, I shouldn't say legit. I just said it hasn't been confirmed that there's slowing growth here. And you can see it was down 9% last week. But if there is slowing growth here, this thing is in trouble because it's got an 85 billion market cap with about, I don't know, 4 billion in sales. So, trading 20 times sales, you better be executing and growing rapidly, or you're going to get a haircut. So if that, story is true and Roblox is in trouble, I would avoid it. If it's not true, this is an opportunity. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. They're going to report earnings, yeah, the first week of November, about a month away. All right. So those are two duds that I had. It happens. All right, it happens. Snowflake had this one on as well. It did okay. I mean, still consolidating within a base, as you can see. Kind of, yeah, I mean, software is tough right now. It was up nearly 5% last week. That's a decent week, but still consolidating within a base. So it needs to break out before you get too excited there with Snowflake. But yeah, some of the software has really been hit lately. All right. I'm going to move on to my favorite category is the drug stocks. And these things move, and that's why I like them. Yeah, they they can also, take you down, right, to the place you don't want to go. I think it was in oh, I don't want to screw this up. No, I don't know which one it was. It was Moon Lake that went down 90% or 95% in a day. And I don't have the ticker symbol here, so I'm not going to look it up. It's just too painful to look at that. But this is INSMED, and this one had very tricky here. It had a 3 weeks type pattern. After running up, they got an FDA approval, right? There you can see it broke out of a base, formed a flat base, ran up, had a 3 weeks tight, which is, typically an add-on buy point. But that next week, which was 2 weeks ago, went down 5%, shook some fools out. And then last week, bam, up 15%. So, kind of a tricky move there. There's your 3 weeks tight. There's your undercut of the 21, the shakeout before the breakout. And it was up every day last week. And just wants higher prices. That's once again like price discovery for INSMED. We'll see how high it can go and how long this thing will last going higher. But yeah, that's a nice move. It traded up to 158.19. Yeah, and that is the thing of beauty. This is one that I did have on my ready list last week. I don't know. I don't hear anybody talking about it, but I like the chart pattern. I like the base. It was trading tight within a base here. Ran up the prior week up to 1230, then pulled back to its five, and then traded tight in here for about a week before popping on Friday. But still, it was up nearly 7% last week. I'll take that every week. Thank you very much. And but it's still 18% off of its 52-week high. I think it has room to run. Looking at the weekly here, this thing's just starting to emerge out of its base. I think I'm going to buy that one because I didn't last week because I'm an idiot. I'm slow sometimes. Anyway, don't be afraid of the drug stocks. That's kind of my thing here. The bearing the lead here because Pfizer has made a deal with the administration and to lower drug prices and made some promises they probably won't keep. But anyway, say what you got to say and do what you got to do to get your shareholders happy. But this thing's still consolidating within the base. Sold off for a long time. Obviously, this is one of the COVID plays, right? Up 15% last week, and you could say that it, broke above this long downtrend line, right? So, yeah, Pfizer looks pretty good. If you own it, congrats. It's too slow for me. I do not own it, but a lot of these larger cap drug stocks just had a hell of a week last week. AbbVie was up, 6%. Lilly was moving a 16% move, and you play with options. Their options were off the chain last week. No pun intended. There was just a lot of them. Merck had a good week. Yeah, man, this thing, you could see the bars here. This is very, what I would call abnormal because you can see how tight the weekly bars are, and all of a sudden you get this big bar. That's kind of telling you, with the big volume, these big bars, you can see how tightly it trades, and all of a sudden, boom, probably going higher. It's a big stock, and institutions are buying. And I like the little ones here too. This is Tarsus Pharmaceuticals, 59.76 was your trigger. I did not have this one on the ready list last week because I'm a dummy. But yeah, there's a lot of these stocks that I like. Cup with handle pattern, breakout 11%. Thank you very much. This is a move not to be ignored, Dan. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Oh, and GMAB, they bought a company, I think was announced Monday. And anytime you get M&A in a space, it leads to speculation that other stocks are going to be bought out. And we're seeing quite a bit of M&A in the biotech space. Some of these bigger companies are buying the smaller ones. This one only has a 22 billion market cap. But man, Wall Street really liked this purchase here. It was up 15.5% last week. Nice move. And it bought MRUS, which is now just going to flatline here. Patience dead. Yeah, got bought out. But yeah, nice premium there. Is it traded what from 70 up to 95? I think we'll all take that. Buyouts are nice, right? If you own a biotech and it gets bought out, it's happy days, right? Pop the champagne corks. All right. You know what? I'm going to stop there with the drug stocks. I could go on. There's a lot of them. There was a lot of news last week with the mergers and with the Trump administration and Pfizer, and just a lot of the drug companies are going to make deals. So we'll look forward to that in the coming weeks. All right, I've got to go to space. Some people think I'm already in space, but that's okay. Rocket Lab. Big move on Friday. I liked it above this 55.17. If we look at a 5-minute chart, it kind of struggled right here. It ran up there to 55.99, got above that 55.17, but then pulled back. So I thought, oh, it's a Friday. There's going to be profit taking. But then, man, a big spurt into the close. So Rocket Lab looks good for continuation next week, I believe. Above what, 56.94, call it 57. You just broke out of this cup with handle pattern, and it looks pretty darn good to me. But ASTS was the star of the show last week, breaking out. I mean, this is a clean breakout from that cup with handle pattern. Let's take a look at this on the weekly chart. You can see the blue dot indicating relative strength, and it was up 38%. Yeah, that'll get a blue dot for you, 38% move. You can see it's been straight up from the bottom here, where it made a low of 36.08 about 4 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, 16% move. 2 weeks ago, 9%. And then last week, bam, 38. That's just a nice move for ASCS. So congrats to the long. Some of my friends have been long that stock for a long time. Held it through this. I can't hold through that, man. That's too much pain for me. 60 to 36. I'm not going to do that. Sorry, I have rules. Um, who else is in this group that I like? ONDS. I think this one's a screaming buy. I shouldn't say that. I might buy it. How about that? I haven't yet. You do whatever you want, but I think I'm going to buy this one. 3 billion market cap. Just crested above 10 last Friday, yesterday, and then closed below that $10 level. You could see a weekly and a monthly chart what these things look like. So yeah, that just looks like a big old, cup shaped pattern there in the monthly. That's ONDS holding ONDS. Yeah, and it's in that space where everything is flying, ha ha ha, including, defense name Kratos. This is another one that's just, Kelly Slater surfing the five. These things are super strong. UMAC is another one. Unusual Machines broke out of this pattern here once again, straight up from the lows, 855 up to 1523. Pretty much a two bagger, pulled back to the 21, shaking some fools out. 4 days of selling, and then it went from 1182 up to 1718. That's a nice move. All right. Allergies are still getting me. They're cutting the grass on the golf course and they're just killing me. But I still love the golf, so I'm going to go out there regardless. All right. This is the one area of the market I think is you could say is definitely frothy, but it doesn't matter, because people complain, oh, the PE has got no sales. It doesn't matter. All you're looking at is price. Okay. These things have, this thing has like 50 million in sales and a market cap of 21 billion. Okay. Millions in sales, 50 million in sales, and 20 billions in market cap. So these things are wildly speculative, right? They're speculating these things are going to be growing rapidly in the future. But you just want to look at these technically, and technically this thing traded from 34.77 up to what, 76. It was more than a two bagger, right? So you pay attention to that little flag pattern I talked about a lot lately. These things have been working, right? As it runs up and then forms this little flag, right? Pulls back to the 21 is all it did, and then woo, bounces sharply. Last week, IONQ was up, yeah, 9%. There's your pattern here where you got the pole, then you got the flag, you got the dip, and you got the rip. So IONQ looks fantastic, but it's not as strong as Rigetti. Rigetti is this leader in this group right now, leader in the clubhouse. 1382 up to 40 bucks, not bad. Same idea though, same principle is just higher above its moving averages, right? You saw IONQ pull back to the 21. This thing just pulled back to the 5. So it just ramped up, made that little flag pattern, and then it said, adios, muchachos, I'm out of here. Uh, the last 4 days of last week, this thing was just on a heater, up 27%. Very nice. And you can see these big blue volume bars. So forget, the fundamentals. I hate saying that, but the fundamentals don't matter here. You're just looking at institutions are buying this thing for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just look at this chart and just block out all the data and just look at the technicals. This thing wants higher. It's in price discovery mode as well. We're seeing a lot of this. But so forget the fundamentals here. Just trade it technically. This thing looks fine. I mean, I wouldn't be chasing it up here. You'll get a 1 or 2 day pullback. And that's when you could pull the trigger. What else do we have? Oh, QBTS, another one. Same type of deal, not quite as strong as Rigetti, but broke out 14 up to what, 30 bucks, pulled back, didn't even come back to the 21, and then I made a higher high on Friday, 33.28. Wow. Yeah, I would wait for a pullback there too. Getting a little extended, so there'll be a day or two where they pull back. They all do. All right, I'm going to move on to, talk about price discovery. Man, SanDisk. Holy smokes, where is this one going? $40 not long ago, and it traded up to 137 on Friday, and it's just surfing the 5 here. So wait for it to come back to the 5 if you want to own a stock. I mean, this is like it's in price discovery. And this one, if you look at the fundamentals, you can see they're doing about, I don't know, 6 billion in sales, maybe a little more, and it's a 18 market cap handicap. Thinking golf again. It's not a handicap, it's a market cap. So it's trading less than 3 times sales. So this is not an expensive stock despite this big move here fundamentally. And if you see these big blue bars, the institutions are buying this thing. So why wouldn't you? But you got to wait for a perfect opportunity. There's your breakout here. This is a spinoff from Western Digital. And it, IPO'd, it came out and it formed this little base and it's been blasting higher ever since. Actually had one down week last week, 2 weeks ago, 5%, but then it rallied up 32% last week. Thank you very much. And like I said, this is price discovery. There's your little, IPO, there's your little base. Then it says, I don't want to be in this base. And it's it's in its advanced phase right now. Who knows how high she will go or how long this will last. But that thing wants higher prices. I mentioned Western Digital. It's not doing too bad. The mothership, you can't go wrong with either one of these. This one, yeah, just surfing the 5 to higher prices. I'll take a look at the weekly and see how much. 22%. So yeah, they're going to pull back at some point. This is looking, the trajectory of this move is looking, how shall I say? I don't want to, I don't want to mischaracterize it. It's just a strong stock. At some point, though, that trajectory is going to change. How about that? Yeah, I don't want to, I don't call tops, I don't call bottoms. These things are awfully strong though. Pure Storage, Charlie Giancarlo's company, not doing too bad. Broke out of this 3 weeks tight area about 5 weeks ago, ran up to 80, and then just kind of waited for that moving average to catch up. There it is. Pull back to the 21. Just wants higher prices. MU is probably the largest one in this 210 billion market cap. Once again, broke out of a base and trading higher. I mean, these things just want higher prices, man. And then the last one is Seagate. Just, they're all looking the same. This trajectory. You could see the trajectory of the moves here. It's on this little trajectory and then basing. Then we had our, tariff tantrum. But ever since that, I think that's a different trajectory than what it was on. So big things are expected of this company, obviously. About 10 billion in sales and a 53 billion market cap, so about 5 times sales. So that's why I say SanDisk has room to catch up. Don't be scared. Don't be a scaredy cat. All right, and I guess I have to go to the biggest market cap, the hardware names. I guess they got some news on Friday. I don't know about China. There's always news. NVIDIA is the king of the AI space. I did have this one on my Reddit list last week, and it gave us a 5% gain, and that's a good week. I mean, especially for a stock this big, 4.5 trillion market cap. Had a 3 weeks tight flat base going into the week, and it rallied, 5.25%. That's pretty darn good for a stock that big. A-Lab is another one that I like. It sold off into the quarter, and then the quarter end, you talk about the window dressing and also profit taking. All it did though was pull back to its 50, bounced a little bit last week, but on Friday got caught up in the news cycle. But it still was up, 1.5% last week. I'm expecting a bigger bounce from A-Lab. And the other ones I'm looking at, well, of course, you got to go to AMD, right? AMD. Um, just consolidating in a base. I like the looks of this one. It rallied above its 50 on Thursday and then undercut it on Friday. The news from China, there will be more news in the coming days and weeks. There always is. So just look at the pattern. It's consolidating within a base. Looks pretty darn good. And they don't report earnings for another month, November 4th. Credo is the last one. This one sold off. It had, I think about 3 weeks in a row was up 15%, then pulled back this week, the prior week to its 21. Since I'm talking weeks, yeah, you can see these are big moves with big volume here. 8%, 14 something, 15 something. Bad week, it was only up 5%. Then the week going into the end of the quarter, it was down 15% and then bounced slightly. A-Lab and Credo, I think, have more room to bounce. But yeah, I'm looking for a bigger bounce off the 21 there. The selling was pretty hellacious, so I expect a strong bounce. All right, I'm going to move on. Insurance, not my favorite group, but I got to point out this move here, cup with handle pattern. You see the big volume here on Friday. So somebody likes Oscar Health up 12% on a breakout. Power through the pivot there, 2077. And you can see how long this thing's been consolidating here. May of 24 is $23. So it hasn't done anything for a year and a half. The one I like in this group is Lemonade. And this one, had this base, broke out, and now it pulled back the last couple of sessions. There you go. So 60.41 would be your trigger. Finding support at the 50. Yeah, that one's setting up nicely. This is your shakeout here, right? Made a new high, pulled back, and then you think, oh man, this thing's going higher, right? It's back at that 60.41. It passed it, 61.82, and then nope. We got 4 or 5 days of shakeout, pull back to the 50 now, trying to bounce. And MCY, I don't even know what these guys do. It's an insurance company. I just know that that's a nice trend. Property casualty, I don't know. Yeah, that's just a nice trend. So I had to point that out. Mercury General. And that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. I have one more thing, though, in honor of the great Steve Jobs. He always said one more thing, and that was the most important thing, was the one more thing. And the housing market is starting to look a lot better. I think, anticipation of lower interest rates will stimulate this market here, which has been pretty darn bad, the housing market. And the stocks will move and make new highs before the housing market gets better. We're anticipating some rate cuts here. Of course, the jobs report that we saw on Friday ensured, lower rates. We're going to get some rate cuts. Oops, I'm sorry, we didn't get a jobs report. That's right. But we know the jobs market's pretty rough, and they're going to lower interest rates. And it's not funny if you're trying to find a job. But this is your textbook cup with handle pattern, pulling back to a moving average. Now it looks like it wants higher prices. And this is, tethered to the lower interest rates. They're rate sensitive companies. If you listen to their conference calls, CEOs are just kind of begging for lower rates because they're having to use incentives to sell their homes, and that cuts into their margins. You can see the 25, 24, 23% margin, which is pretty good. And Pulte, the same thing. Cup with handle. I mean, these are carbon copies. They trade with each other. So that one looks pretty good. KB, and this is a kind of a lower end. I shouldn't say lower end. They're just less expensive homes. And you can see their margins are getting cut. I listened to the CEO of this company, 21, 20, and now 19. So yeah, they want lower interest rates. They're going to get them. It's just going to take time, but the stocks will move before, the Fed lowers rates. And this one, yeah, is weaker than the other two that I just showed you. But the one that I get all the questions about by a long shot is Open Door. This one is also, it's in the housing market and tethered to interest rates, which I think we're going to get lower rates. I think the stock's going to go higher, but we have a lot of sellers here. You can see it ran up from 50 cents and pulled back, formed that little flag pattern that I was talking about earlier. We've seen a lot of these work, right? Whoop, there's your little flag. I'm lazy here. There's your flag. And then it popped, right? Made another one. But the difference in these flags is that, the price is getting higher, went from 50 cents to 10 bucks. And so it used to pull back and flag at the five. And it did this a couple of times, ran up, flagged out at the five, found support and bounced, ran up, flagged at the five, found support. And the last time made this high. And now it's flagging at the 21. And I got to show you this 15-minute chart because there's a lot of sellers in this name. I don't know if it's short sellers or if it's insiders at the company who are getting fired and they're selling their stock. But every time it tries to run up, it's met with selling. Here you can see this whoop, big dive. Then it gets some buyers and it just, sells off. Tries to run up, sells off, tries to run up, sells off. So every rally here is met with selling. This is very frustrating here. This is Wednesday. Looked like it was going to really ramp up, have a big day. It was up, I don't know, 10 or 12%. It closed negative on the day on Wednesday, I believe, or close to negative or flat. And then Thursday, kind of a flat day. It tried to rally on Friday, and then it was just met with selling. So there's a lot of sellers in this stock. Uh, for one reason or another. It doesn't really matter. I think it'll break out soon because this is very interesting pattern for me. A little pinching, and it's going to pop above that area there at some point. Yeah, looking at it on all time frames here, the weekly chart, the pullback to the moving average, the volume's drying up here on the weekly. The last 2 weeks, you can see it's up with big volume and down on lighter volume the last 2 weeks. I'm not saying next week it's going to break out to new highs, although it could. But yeah, it's got to break above this downtrend line. Like I said, looked like it wanted to on Friday, and it just met with selling. I mean, this thing was up, I think about 8.80, $8.80, and then closed at 8.11. So that's there's just a lot of sellers in here, but you can see the trend. Here's your 50 trending higher. There's your 21 trending higher. The 5 is curling down though. So the shorter term moving average needs to start curling up. And eventually these sellers will, abate. There's only so much stock they can sell. But probably the people at the company who are, getting laid off are just selling, because they had their RSUs here at what it was 50 cents and now they can sell it at $8. So you'd be fool not to, cash out some. if you work there. But you can see here on the daily, the big uh, volume bars, right? Since this big move here, they're all on up days, and the low volume bars are down days. Had decent volume on Friday, but just could not break out. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.